build a life worth living. Not a life that looks good from the outside. Not a life built for applause. Not a life that keeps you busy, but leaves you empty. A life worth living is a life that gives you strength when you wake up and peace when you lay your head down. It is a life that makes you proud of the man in the mirror, even when nobody is watching. Most men don't build a life. They fall into one. They drift. They react. They cope. They chase comfort. They chase distraction. They chase quick relief. Then they wonder why time feels like it's disappearing and why their chest feels heavy in the quiet moments. That heaviness isn't stress. It's the weight of a life that doesn't match your standards. A life worth living is not found. It is constructed, and construction is not romantic. It is dust, sweat, planning, correction, and repetition. It is doing the same hard things long enough that your future becomes different from your past. The men who win are not the ones who got lucky. They are the ones who got serious and stayed serious. You have to start with truth. Many men don't want truth. They want comfort. They want someone to tell them it's okay to stay weak. It's not okay. Not because you need to impress anyone, but because your life is your responsibility. If you don't take responsibility, you will live a life shaped by your worst impulses and other people's expectations. That is not freedom. That is slavery. Let me tell you what a life worth living is made of. It's made of meaning, standards, health, skill, duty, relationships with character, and a mission that gives your suffering purpose. You cannot have a life worth living if you are mentally and physically collapsing. You cannot have a life worth living if you hate yourself. You cannot have a life worth living if you are addicted to distractions. You cannot have a life worth living if you are drifting without a direction. So we're going to talk like men. I'm going to speak to you as if you're sitting across from me and you're tired of being the guy who says one day. You don't need another motivational moment. You need a rebuild. You need structure. You need standards. You need to stop living like time is infinite. First, build your foundation. Your foundation is your body, your sleep, and your mind. If your foundation is weak, everything above it shakes. Your work becomes sloppy. Your mood becomes unstable. Your relationships become tense. Your discipline becomes fragile. That is why the first step in building a life worth living is becoming hard to kill. Train your body. Eat with standards. Sleep like it matters. Hydrate, move, lift, run, carry weight. Not for vanity, for readiness, because your body is your engine and your armor. A man who neglects his body is building a house on sand. Your mind is part of that foundation. A life worth living requires a mind that can focus and endure. Most men are mentally soft because they never train attention. They cannot sit still. They cannot think clearly. They cannot work deeply. Their mind is constantly interrupted and constantly hungry. That's not normal. That's addiction. A man with a mission learns to control his attention. He trains his mind the same way he trains his body, through repetition and restraint. He reduces noise. He builds silence into his day. He learns to be alone without escaping into distraction. Second, build your standards. Standards are what make your life predictable in the right way. A man without standards is a man who negotiates with himself all day. He wakes up and asks, do I feel like working? Do I feel like training? Do I feel like being disciplined? That man will lose, because feelings are unstable, standards are stable. Standards do not mean you become rigid or lifeless. They mean you stop living randomly. Your day stops being an accident. Your week stops being a blur. Your life stops being a series of reactions. Standards are the rules you live by, even when it's inconvenient. They are the line you will not cross. They are the minimum you will not fall below. They are the reason you don't become weak the moment life gets easy. Here's the truth. You can't build a life worth living if you lie to yourself. If you say you'll do something and you don't, you chip away your self-respect. You become a man who can't trust his own word. And when you can't trust yourself, everything feels unstable. So one of the most important standards is this: keep your word, not to impress others, to restore your spine. Third, build a mission. A mission is not a hobby. It is not a vague dream. It is a direction that organizes your life. Without mission, men drift. They chase pleasure, they chase women, they chase status, they chase distractions. And even if they get some of it, they still feel empty because there's no reason behind it. A man needs a reason. Your mission doesn't need to be grand in the beginning, but it must be real. It must be something that requires you to grow. Something that challenges you, something that demands discipline, something that forces you to become competent and useful. A mission gives your suffering meaning, and meaning turns pain into fuel. Without meaning, pain becomes bitterness. With meaning, pain becomes strength. This is why men collapse when life hits them, and they have no purpose. When you don't know what you're building, every setback feels like a personal attack. But when you have a mission, setbacks become training. They become part of the path. You don't panic. You adjust. You keep moving. Fourth, build competence. A life worth living is a life where you can handle problems. A man who cannot handle problems is always anxious because he knows he's fragile. Competence is security. It's the ability to fix things, learn things, produce value, and lead when needed. Competence is what gives a man quiet confidence, not loud confidence, not social media confidence, real confidence. Most men stay broke, stressed, and insecure because they never master anything. They dabble. They hop from one idea to another. They talk about being great, but they never commit long enough to become skilled. A life worth living requires mastery. Pick something: a craft, a trade, a profession, a skill. Go deep. Build competence until people can rely on you, until you can rely on yourself. Competence also protects you from the modern disease of helplessness. Helpless men are easy to control. They need permission. They need guidance for everything. They panic when something breaks. They fold under pressure. A competent man becomes a pillar because he can create solutions. Fifth, build your circle and your relationships with standards. Your life cannot be worth living if the people closest to you are dragging you down. A man's circle either sharpens him or softens him. Choose wisely. Brotherhood matters because men need men. Not to gossip, not to complain, to hold each other to a standard, to compete in a healthy way, to build together, to call each other out when weakness shows up. A life worth living includes men you respect, men you can trust, men who make you stronger by being around them. And relationships with women must be built with standards too. The wrong woman can turn a strong man into a tired man. The wrong relationship can drain your energy, destroy your focus, and poison your peace. A life worth living requires a home that feels like a fortress, not a battlefield. That means respect, loyalty, communication, adult conflict, clear boundaries, shared values, If your relationship is constant chaos, you are not living. You are surviving. Sixth, build discipline over pleasure. Pleasure is not evil, but pleasure without discipline becomes addiction. And addiction turns men into slaves. A life worth living is not a life with no pleasure. It's a life where pleasure is earned, controlled, and never allowed to replace purpose. Most men don't need more entertainment. They need more structure. They don't need more comfort. They need more challenge. They don't need more self-care. They need self-respect. And self-respect comes from doing what you know you should do, even when you don't want to. If you want a life worth living, you must be willing to endure discomfort. Voluntary hardship builds you. It makes you stronger. It makes you calmer. It makes you harder to break. That could be training. That could be cold mornings. That could be long walks. That could be learning something difficult. That could be sacrificing quick relief for long-term growth. The point is not suffering for suffering's sake. The point is becoming the kind of man who can handle life when life gets heavy. Seventh, build order in your day. Your day is the building block of your life. If your days are chaos, your life will be chaos. If your days are disciplined, your life becomes disciplined. So design your day. Wake up with intention. Move early if possible. Do your most important work before the world steals your attention. Protect focus like a weapon. Put distractions in their place. Eat like a man. Train like a man. Handle responsibilities. Spend time with your wife or family with presence, not half attention. Then sleep like a man. Because sleep is not a luxury, it's maintenance. A life worth living doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires you to be consistent. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates identity. Identity creates a future you can be proud of. Now, I want to address the man who feels behind, because many of you do. You look at your life and you feel the gap between who you are and who you should be. That gap hurts, but pain can either crush you or sharpen you. If you use it correctly, it becomes fuel. Do not waste time hating yourself. Hate without action is weakness. If you're behind, accept it, own it, then start building. One brick today, one brick tomorrow. The shame leaves when progress starts. The mind quiets when work begins. The body feels alive when you move. The soul feels steady when you live by standards. And understand this, building a life worth living means you will disappoint some people. Because when you rise, your standards change, your availability changes, your priorities change. Weak people will call you selfish for choosing discipline. Lazy people will call you extreme for choosing structure. People who benefit from your weakness will dislike your growth. Let them dislike it. Your life is not a democracy. It's your responsibility. A life worth living also means learning to say no. No to distractions. No to cheap pleasures. No to weak habits. No to environments that make you small. No to relationships that drain you. No to your own excuses. Every strong life is built on strong no's. Now I'll bring this home. You are going to die one day. That is not negativity. That is truth. And the tragedy is not death. The tragedy is living a life you never meant to live because you were too soft to build. The tragedy is wasting your days on distractions and calling it normal. The tragedy is reaching the end and realizing you never became the man you could have been. So, start now. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start with the basics. Train your body, fix your sleep, clean up your habits, build a mission, work on your competence, Set standards in your relationships. Build order in your day. Do it quietly. Do it consistently. Do it like your life depends on it. Because it does. Build a life worth living. One that gives you pride. One that gives you peace. One that makes you stronger. One that makes the people around you safer. One that leaves a legacy worth inheriting. You don't get that life by accident. You get it by construction. So pick up the tools and start building.